Hey y'all. So I just want to preface why I decided to record this today instead of going on Twitter because I'm taking a slight social media break for another day or two because it's been really hard to be on social media. I love a lot of people. I've made great acquaintances and actual friends that I talk to on and off that app, but there's a lot of toxicity, a lot of fighting and back and forth. And right now, I am going through a lot of what is known as manic. There are manic highs, there are manic lows, and I'm hitting a low. So I did not want to be in the middle of the are we angry and ganging up on mentality that has become Twitter. So I decided to take some time off. And unfortunately for me, when I take that kind of time off, and let me transition this video over because I still learning this platform and stuff as I record these things. I tend to watch a lot of stuff. If it's not social media, which I honestly have not seen Twitter in the last couple of days, I needed that kind of break. I said I was going to go on a break the day I announced it, and I still ended up still on Twitter 4 hours later, reading and responding to people. I was like, I'm not taking a break. So I cut myself off completely from social media because I needed it. I was getting fed up. But unfortunately for me, I'm going to seek out other ways to occupy my time. And I got pulled into the world of streaming and YouTubing and mediums that I'm currently using. I'm not a big streamer, I'm not a big YouTuber. I don't really know if that's in the cards for me. It's not really planned. It's just vehicles that I use to express myself, whether it's the Bonnet Chronicles or gaming or whatever I want to do. It's just a fun thing for me. I'm not expecting it to pop off. I didn't expect Twitter to ever pop off either, and things don't always work the way you think they're going to work. But I started watching things and seeing unnecessary dramas in regards to marginalized people speaking up about certain popular people who have problematic histories. And the way that people respond to the marginalized person, trying to say that they're weaponizing who they are or playing a card, got to me because I've seen it over and over again. And I say this as a Black woman. My identity is who I am. I don't get a break from it. I don't get to escape from it. I am constantly reminded in both good and bad ways of my ethnicity. And I live in a society that prejudges a lot of what I do and who I am based on my skin color. There are plenty of people like me, whether their eyes are shaped a certain way, or their skin is a certain tone, or how they identify gender wise, or if they decide to have a gender to identify as. Anything that is not considered the normal default is constantly scrutinized and told that our identity is either just politics or something that doesn't need to be brought up because it brings the people who are causing us harm out of their comfort zones. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the comfort zones that you put yourselves in, the way you forgive people whose actions and words have harmed other people, and how quickly you tell us that when we come at you with actual facts, that we're being aggressive and that you're the victim of our ganging up and mob mentality. I've watched this play out in so many scenarios, but what really killed me was watching it in communities where that shouldn't be. Artist communities where you think that these people are just drawing what they love and enjoying themselves are going through this because there are certain people who weaponize their identity because they know they can get away with it. They know they can be harmful and hateful, and if they build enough fans, they can keep at it because they're the default setting. And then what makes it worse is that they take mental health, which is something I live with, that is my life, and they use it as a, well, you can't get mad at me. I'm having mental issues. I'm feeling like I don't want to be here. And just because I don't do it doesn't mean I'm not feeling it. And I never want to invalidate anybody who's feeling this way, ever. You don't get a choice in your mental health, but your mental health doesn't excuse your actions. And one of the things I fight against, because there's so much stigma against mental illness as it is, are people who utilize mental health to say, I did something bad, but you can't blame me because I have this. No, that's not how mental health works. You are completely responsible for your actions. There are very few scenarios in mental health where you can say that I was not responsible. I say this as a full-on schizophrenic who has had non-lucid days. I understand that in a non-lucid state, things around me feel real, even if they're not happening. But if I harm somebody in that state, it is still me doing it. That is why I do everything I can to keep away from people when I'm feeling like this, when I'm feeling manic, when I'm feeling bipolar depressant, when I'm feeling like the voices are crowding my mind a bit too much. I stay the fuck away from people. And I hate that so many people are treating what I have as a fashion statement, and don't think I don't see that shit. You act like a bunch of assholes, whether it's bigotry, whether it's racism, whether it's homophobia or transphobia, and then you go, you can't blame me, I'm just having a manic mood. As somebody who realistically deals with mania, it pisses me off to no end to have somebody act harmful and hateful and then go, oh, nope, I was just manic. You can't blame me for it. Yes, we can. Because if I say something harmful and hateful, no matter where my mind is at, that is still me doing damage, and you need to take responsibility for the shit that you say. It boggles my mind that people think they can just put anything out there and then go, nope, mental illness, and that's supposed to be the end all be all. Not only does that hurt people who are just trying to live our lives and navigate this world with our minds not always working the way they should, but it makes people less prone to understanding that there are a blanket of ways to have illnesses, and not everybody is going to have the same issues or attitudes. Also, I am tired of seeing people go, well, that person went on a racist tirade. They're just mentally ill. Being a bigot is a choice. Being mentally unsound is not. You don't get a choice. Nobody checks the box and says, I want to have bipolar. I want to have depression. I want to be schizophrenic. No one willingly picks that. It's bad enough we have idiots. And I watched this true crime thing the other day that boggled my mind. This one dude who thought he was just a master writer and manipulator, and he wanted to be a sociopath. And I say this as a diagnosed sociopath, most of us don't want this because it is hard to navigate in a world where all the social norms exhaust us. Having to deal with people is fucking exhausting. Knowing that I could do something bad, but I choose not to, is one of the things that I need people to understand. Not everybody with this is like this, but I am lucky that I grew up in a foundation. I have enough people around me to constantly remind me that I don't have to be that way. But I need to be blunt about sociopathy. I don't like being around too many humans. I'm very selective in the relationships that I cultivate and keep around me because I get tired of people, even the people I enjoy and I love. There is a limit of how much I want to deal with them before they need to leave me the fuck alone. I am very awkward when it comes to social interactions because they exhaust me. But I'm also very blunt and calculating, and I can be manipulative if I want to be. So I am very careful of that too. One of the things I say is I never want to do something that potentially harms somebody and be their bully because I know what it's like to be bullied. But I know I've done it. I knew I could manipulate a situation in the past, especially when I was younger, to hurt somebody that hurt me. And I realized I had to stop doing that. I also realized that I'm capable of doing certain things that I will not put out there out loud because I don't want to speak it to existence. But part of sociopathy is thinking about certain scenarios. But there's a difference between thinking about things and acting on them. And there are way too many people that see a Hollywood version of sociopathy or psychopathy and think, oh, that's cool. I want to aspire to that too. And then they don't realize the reality of the situation. This isn't Hollywood. You're not going to get a quick kill on somebody. You're not going to be the effective assassin you think you are. It is sickening. The few times I've ever gotten to a point where I felt like I could harm somebody was a scenario where I felt I needed to let that person know they're in danger. The first time was when I finally got fed up with the end towards the end of my relationship before the one I'm in now, where it was really the point of he's going to do something to me and I'm going to have to do something back because it's going to be me or him. And I don't ever want to be in a scenario like that ever again. And then the second time was when somebody was harming my child. I don't take that lightly. I am very protective of my baby. And I did not want that person to think that they could get away with what they were doing. So I made it clear what I would do to them. And I don't feel remorse for that. It is hard to pretend like I feel remorse for being blunt about what I could do to a person to protect myself or my child, but I'm not going to fake that. It is exhausting to pretend like I care about people's feelings once I write them off. I don't. And I try to explain it in ways that most people can understand. But sociopathy isn't something most people understand. They just think it's hip and edgy because they get on TV shows and movies that, oh, you can be a lovable personality killer like Dexter. Dexter is not real. None of the things he did is remotely real. A lot of serial killers actually want to be caught. They think they can become famous for it. So you need to stop idolizing this phony portrayal of mental health issues and this phony portrayal of sociopathy. It does a disservice. And to you drama llamas, because there are a whole hell lot of yous, especially on this freaking YouTube site, stop using mental health as an excuse to be assholes. If you decide to insert yourself into something because you're a fan of somebody who's problematic, and let's just face it, a lot of us have problematic faves. It's a part of being in any fandom. If you decide to insert yourself into something and step in it by saying something harmful or hateful or racist and you get called out, people aren't weaponizing against you. They are using what you said back at you. You cannot just put something out there and not have consequences for it. I know even by putting this video out there, if somebody takes what I say the wrong way, that's how they're going to take it. I cannot police or make people feel a certain way about certain things. All I can say is that I've observed way too many marginalized people have to navigate how we talk about our pain for some people's comfort because they don't want to feel that harsh exposing light on how they act. So when we talk about bigotry, whether it is open face blatant racism or transphobia or homophobia or, you know, any kind of hatred, whether it's misogyny or whatnot. And then we're met by the, well, you know, we need to give this person another chance and we shouldn't cancel. You have all the empathy in the world for a terrible person who has done and said stuff that has caused people harm, but nothing at all for the people who have been the victims of what they're doing. If your favorite decided to black, yellow, brown, or any kind of face that wasn't their ethnicity, they're in the wrong. It doesn't matter if you found it entertaining. It doesn't matter if you personally didn't find it hurtful. The people who say it's hurtful grew up in a society that automatically told us our existence is othered and different. Our paths are so greatly different from yours because we are constantly reminded by everybody that we're different. We are constantly reminded by everyone that our lives, based on physical looks for the most part, or who we fall in love with, is so vastly different and wrong. So when you say, oh, they're just making a joke, when you're not the punchline, of course you don't see the wrong in it. It's real easy for some of you to go, oh, this person was just doing blackface as an entertainment. And if you understood the history of blackface, if you understood that minstrel shows was meant to mock and dehumanize black and brown people especially, if you understood that old movies, instead of casting actual Asian actors, would just put white people in yellowface and make horrible portrayals of them. And how that would feel to a kid who barely gets representation at all. If you could just use empathy for that instead of standing your problematic phase, we would get somewhere. But no, some of you like to insert yourselves into stuff, especially when people are talking about their experience, to devalue it, to say, oh, I don't understand why you're talking about that, or I don't see color, so I don't understand why I have to hear this. And it's because you don't want to hear it, because you don't want us talking about our experience, that we can't get anything done. I would love to live in a world where this was just conversations of the past. Just a little reminder every once in a while that we can't get back to this. But that is not the reality. People are still being murdered for the color of their skin. People are still being murdered for their gender identity. People are still being murdered for their sexual orientation, for their faith or lack thereof. Because we humans can't mind our own business, figure out what works for us, and stick with that. No, we all have to tell others what to do and congregate like-minded echo chambers that only amplify what we want to hear. Every one of us could learn that it's not about us. But we don't do that because it feels good when it is about us. I understand how complex that is because I'm fucking constantly in my head, constantly analyzing stuff. But it doesn't make it any less exhausting as a black woman when I am talking my truth about something and I have to worry because what I say might get a white person defensive. And if you're a white person, I need you to listen to this part especially because this is the most tiring. I cannot navigate the hate that I have to survive through and your feelings that you're being attacked by me talking about racism. Because if I don't directly say your name and call you racist, if I'm not singing you by your name is racist, if I am talking about your demographic, because there are several instances of your demographic doing problematic things, it is not a direct call for you to jump in and say not all or not me and want a cookie or a pat on your head for bare minimum humanism. Just like I had to learn early on, because people like to place black people in the monolith, that I don't need to defend every black person because ain't shititis is a thing, and I know there are a lot of people who share my skin tone that ain't shit. There are a lot of people that share your skin tone that ain't shit. It's funny that I know who to defend and who not to defend. You know who I defend? Me and mine. If it's me and my son, if it's me and my partner, I'll defend you because I know you. If I don't know you, you're not getting that defense. I'm not a paid attorney. I don't think my fandom requires me to be an attack dog for anybody. And if somebody you like and respect is using you in that way, you need to reevaluate why you fan them. Because nobody should be used as a foot soldier for fuckery, and too many of you sign up for that. And all that devotion, what's that get you? You get a lot of angry back and forth with other people. You argue, and then you end up being shunned as a bigot because you're supporting somebody who did something bigoted. And even if you're not a bigot or you don't think you are, the moment you're like, well, they said something transphobic, but, or they said something racist, but, they dress like a black person, they're not really black, but, the moment you have to add the but, you nullify anything else you have to say for me. I'm not speaking for anybody else either. I am speaking for me as a person. The moment you put that button, it is like you are admitting this is bad, but I have an acceptable level of fuckery. And you don't want pushback for it. But your acceptable level of fuckery has a negative impact on people like me. I don't want to click on a medium that I come for entertainment and see some white man, whether he is a marginalized person himself, put shoe polish or whatever other darkening things on his face and act like a stereotype of who I am and think that's okay. It's not acceptable. These same people would get upset if that person decided to do something that targeted them as a person. And it's always funny how that is. You never want to stand up for us until you're made fun of. You're being mocked. And it's always funny how some people love to deflect that whole you're using your identity to attack me nonsense when your identity is so much the default that people act like just being a black nerd is trying not to be black. It's tiring. And I am so sick of seeing it on top of so many other things on social media. That's why I needed to take a break. It is tiring seeing friends of mine fighting. Way too many of y'all have egos like you're some kind of fucking superstar. And the worst is the whole I'm mad at this person, so we all need to block them parties that I see left and right constantly. I have plenty of people that I enjoy reading their tweets most of the time that every once in a while say something I think is stupid as fuck. What do? I keep it moving. I have a young lady who I feel like she really is how I was at that age. She tweets out whatever she wants. She's finally starting to get into that mindset that I'm going to be me and people just have to accept that. It doesn't mean she doesn't say things that it's like, girl, I don't really gel with that. It's just, I know that she's her own person. And if she ever said anything that was too much, I can just unfollow and block. I don't have to make a big deal about it, nor make it into a war. Some of y'all like the drama you claim to not be about. Some of yous who I love both of yous get on my fucking nerves sometimes with the fighting. Because you have a falling out, people decide we're going to declare factions, and then people like me who just want peace are stuck in the middle with all of yous acting like this is high school again. That shit's not fun. I am going to be 44 years old in a few days. I didn't like this shit back in the 90s. I don't like it now. Y'all need to grow up. I don't have anybody who's a minor that I know of following me currently on any medium. I could be wrong, but I honestly don't draw in people who are younger. So it would surprise me if I had anybody under the age of even 20 or 30 in my immediate pool. So I say this: use a grown ass people. If you don't like somebody, don't like them. Don't talk to them. There are plenty of ways to navigate social media without having to deal with people you don't like. But way too many of you would rather fight and see how many people are loyal to you. And this, once again, goes to those of you who want to show your loyalty. Don't let your loyalty make you a foot soldier for fuckery. Way too many of you are comfortable doing that because you think, oh, this person will like me more. They don't give a fuck about you. I'm going to be point blank, blunt, brutal, honest. When I ran the CCC, which was a group 4 years ago that we wanted to talk politics and social issues. We did podcasts. We tried to make a name for ourselves and it fell apart. Why? Egos, basically. Had one fucking womanizing scammer, another unstable type, and plenty of us that really weren't shit trying to get together and form something. And what we did was fun. I feel it was a lot of groundbreaking things we set off. That's why I wanted to continue it and try to find my home. And I've bounced around and I finally decided to Thanos this shit and do my own thing with the Bonnet Chronicles. But honestly, the CCC is the reason why I knew what was possible when people got together, what we could do, how we could both weaponize the people that followed us and utilize them. And it's not okay. It's not okay to take people and say, I don't like that person, swarm them. I don't like that person, mass block them. If I have a beef with somebody, that is my own personal beef. And I am still stumbling with that. One of the last things that I feel a little bit of guilt about, not for the whole scenario, but how I handled it, was the situation on Mother's Day. I could have quietly unfollowed and let the person that I unfollowed know that it was done. That person had overstepped their bounds too many times and it was over. But I wanted to hurt that person. I admit that. I'm not saying this for pity or for anybody to like or agree. The whole point of me publicly declaring that I was done with them was to hurt them because I was tired of seeing their antics. But when I realized that people are going to start going, well, she's got a large following, what she says matters, they could use that and weaponize against her, which I don't want. That wasn't the intent. It was more of my ego superseding a situation that could have been handled quietly. And so many of us need to learn from that, especially on social media, especially since as the numbers grow with people following you, your ego starts to get out of check. Or if you become popular on a streaming site or on any medium, you start to act like you're better than people, and that's not the case. You're still a human being. You're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to go by what you know. But if you're not willing to admit when what you've done has caused harm and grow from it, you're not a decent person. And I say this to people who want to fan these people anyway. If the moment you show any kind of displeasure at what they're saying or doing is met with blocking or attacks by them and other people who are supposedly more devoted, that is not your fault. And now you know you were standing a fucked up person. Move on. It is not the end of the world to move on from somebody you thought was okay, but realize they're not. I say this as somebody who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and now half the damn people that I've admired are either dead or incarcerated for being garbage. Even if I enjoy the medium that they gave to me as a child and as a teenager, if they are that problematic, I am not going to defend them. I am not going to stand by their actions. And I know a lot of people think that fan loyalty is so important, but if your fan loyalty gets in the way of your moral system, if you even have one of those, if you think Black Lives Matter, you can't say in the same breath, but I'm okay with light doses of racism or ethnic insensitivity, which ethnic insensitivity is just racism. You can't just give things a new term to make it seem like it's less than. Bigotry is bigotry. And I know it's hard for some people to accept this, but a lot of you need to, and you need to stop playing the whole I'm mentally ill when you get called out. Because I'm saying this as a schizophrenic with bipolar disorder. It's not okay for you to wear my life as a fashion accessory. It's not okay for you to take yourself crying and upset and say, this is why you can't say bad things about me after I've inserted myself in drama or gone off and said horrible things. That's not how this works. I know how my brain is when I'm manic. That is why I'm very careful how I interact with people when I'm going through mania. That's why even making this video, I needed a day or two to make sure that I was coherent and not overly overwrought by it. But I wanted to get this out because I see so many people playing these kind of games, and it's not okay. I will be on tomorrow night for New Bonnet Chronicles. This is not really an advert for this. I just want to wrap it up on this note. I want to talk about the instant gratification generation, and I have an amazing group that come in to the interactive chat and talk about it. So it's going to be nice to do that with y'all. But what I really needed to get across is why I needed a break. It is frustrating to see the back and forth bullshit, to see the unnecessary drama because so many of you can't mind your fucking business. So many of you can't uncenter yourself. And then you have the audacity on top of that to accuse the people who are telling you our experiences of playing a card or weaponizing our identity. And that's not okay. And if you decide that your fandom of somebody is more important than the reality of the people they're hurting, you get what you get. It's called the consequences of your actions. But I'm going to wrap this up. I will be on tomorrow live if y'all want to check it out on Twitch. It'll probably be on the next day on Twitter. I plan on doing more of these. I plan on doing more talks because I feel like when people hear a different perspective, when it's not full on anger, when you're being clear about the issues that it helps some, it's not going to help all. I know that there are going to always be people who get defensive. This ain't for them. This is for those of you who are trying to understand why people like me get tired of saying, you got to see things from our perspective. And it's not that we can't take actual criticism when you talk about us, but when you try to say that us bringing facts to your fiction, because a lot of you set up fictional lives and personas and you try to encompass people in it, and when we come at you with facts and you just double down on how we're being mean because we're using facts against you, everything you say folds. You need to get with reality and you need to stop utilizing my reality as your fiction. I'll talk to you again soon.